Hi everyone, my name is Raeshel and welcome to Raeshel Goes Global. First things first, I just want to get it out of the way. If you are watching this and you're really confused because you used to be subscribed to my book channel when I was like 15, I'm so sorry. We are rebranding. I am a travel content creator focusing on the solo and budget niches. I primarily post on TikTok and Instagram, but I've really wanted to be launching longer form content. So I thought what better way than to go back to my roots of YouTube, which I loved so much and I'm so excited. And today, as my first video, I figured I would tell you the story of how I got into solo travel and how that came from a Tinder match. And we have a lot of ground to cover, so we're just gonna head straight into it. But I'm 23 now, turning 24 later this year. Travel is one of my many passions and I am a travel content creator, but I wasn't always like that and I actually didn't leave the country until I was 21 years old. Our story today takes us all the way back to the beginning of 2020 when something horrifying happened, the COVID-19 pandemic. I was a junior in college at this time and I had actually just transferred from my branch campus to the main campus, so I was already in a state of like becoming a new person. And when we were sent home for spring break and didn't come back, I was devastated. And one of the biggest issues for me was being isolated and alone for that long of a period. I personally was not comfortable at all being alone. I was always around people in college, so having to go back home where I didn't have any friends in the area and we were on lockdown was really damaging for me. But Tinder came into the picture, and this is not sponsored, but it absolutely should be because they made their passport feature free at this time. Basically, with their passport feature, you could put your location anywhere in the world and just swipe there and have a match. Of course, I hopped on this immediately. It was always my dream to like meet people from other countries. I'd always talked about it even in college as a joke, and now it was like right in front of me. So I matched with a British man. We are going to call him Tom for the purposes of this video and any future references I make of him. A little Love Island reference. We talked basically for that entire summer of 2020. I was able to go back to school in the fall and we kind of stopped in like October where he was just like swiping up on my messages. We had made plans to like FaceTime and never did. It was just super weird for me and I was kind of like, oh my god, like we're talking every day. It's kind of weird. So then we didn't talk again until Valentine's Day of 2021. I have a million boy stories and I'm so excited to tell all of them, but I was basically waiting for another boy to ask me out on Valentine's Day and then he didn't. Shocker. So I posted thirst traps on Instagram because what else are you supposed to do? The British man slid into my DMs and honestly from that point it is a huge blur. We talked so much. Like it was actually so scary, even more so than the summer, and I was still under this impression like you're not a real person. This is literally like we're just pen pals. After I think a week or two, it was a random weekend in like March and he was drunk, I was a little drunk, he wanted to FaceTime and I was like, okay. We were both so drunk that we couldn't figure out how to like actually call each other because we had different area codes and like country codes, so we just like video chatted on Facebook. But oh boy, did it become a regular thing through actual FaceTime the next day. I was changing my sleep schedule for this man. I was working extra hours and different shifts so I could talk to him. Like I was down bad. Some might say I was idolizing, over romanticizing. In hindsight, absolutely I was. But I was young and in love, so please spare all judgment until the end and we can have questions as well. Obviously, a couple months of this like constant attention, constant communication went by. I was smitten with this man. Absolutely. It even escalated to us sending each other gifts. I sent him a t-shirt from my favorite bar and like a care package. I painted him a picture. He sent me a necklace with the coordinates of the point in between us in the Atlantic Ocean. Like the exact center in between us, and engraved the coordinates and sent it to me. He wrote me a poem. We started writing letters. We were having this full, again, rom-com experience. It felt like a dream. One day, my coworker brings up going to England because her dad has a girlfriend there and like that's where they're gonna meet up. But of course I brought this up to him so we could fantasize about meeting. Surprisingly, he was really down for it, which again in hindsight was weird and a little bit much. But he basically told me to come immediately. He'll book a hotel. We planned it in like 5 minutes and in my head I was going. And wouldn't you know, the plans with my friend fell through like a week later. They decided to meet somewhere else and she wasn't going. So I still thought I was going to England and I didn't let this bother me at all. I brought this up to Tom. Of course he said, I want to still see you. Let's do it. Let's plan it. This was my first time booking an international flight, planning a trip of this magnitude. This was my first time leaving the country. I didn't even have a passport at this time. I was determined to make it work. I was doing the research, I was putting in the work, and I decided to book the flight finally in June when I went home to see my parents. I ended up booking the trip for the end of July to the beginning of August. As soon as I booked it, the nerves kicked in. I'd never left the country, even with my parents. I was going to meet a stranger, even though I felt like I had known him forever. Again, I was in love, so who cares? I originally booked the trip for 2 weeks, but then he told me he had a family holiday for the last week and it was gonna be weird, so I decided to just extend it without even asking first. But then I got invited on the family holiday, so that even just upped the stakes even more. It was crazy. Let's fast forward to arrival. Like a couple months later, I was bricks. Obviously you fantasize about meeting somebody like this and you have this picture of who they are in your head, but they can always be super different and it can just be wild. So I was stressed. I had huge butterflies at the airport. I got there so early, but it was very dead at the airport considering that the quarantine mandate had like just been lifted for vaccinated travelers. So I was like just making the cut. After a long international overnight flight, again, my very first of my life, we met. It felt like magic. We went go. We went to his hometown and the rest of it just kind of fell into place. So we fast forward again to the end of this trip. It's like one of the last days in the family holiday week. Basically what ended up happening is I made a joke based off of this meme. I was like, look at us, who would have thought, not me, haha. This dude literally looks me dead in the eyes and goes, not me. Like, actually, I was taken aback when he said this. I didn't even know what to say. To spare everybody the gory details, we basically had like multiple heart-wrenching conversations about how nothing he ever said was real. He was kind of like playing a game the whole time, joking around. He practically admitted that it was all fake and just like something to pass the time. These are words that he used, by the way. I'm not just like enhancing the story. Like, he genuinely told me that it was not real. Obviously, I was devastated to learn this. We don't even need to go into it. I've healed, I've moved on. It's now kind of like a haha, you got me here, you know, thanks for your place in my life. But we rode out the last few days. I told him that I would miss him. We had like heart-wrenching moments on the beach, like holding each other in each other's arms, and then we were just like not together anymore. I was literally crying so hard on the flight home that the flight attendant sat next to me for like an hour after service and everything, like in the middle of the flight. She was giving me tissues, she was talking about it because I was on my iPad like looking at pictures, like so down bad. He ghosted me like a week after my birthday, which was like a month later, and I haven't heard from him since. Again, we've healed, we moved on, and that's the end of that. So how did this bring me to the life I live now and traveling all around the world by myself? Around the time that we were together and I went on this trip, I was actually working as a manager at Chipotle, which slay because I love Chipotle, but I was honestly super lost. I didn't really have a plan for my life after. I was kind of just passing the time. I was supposed to go to school, that didn't work out. So I was in a weird limbo, but after being able to take literally almost a month off of work and going on this grand adventure, no matter how it ended up, I was bitten by the travel bug so hard. People do not joke about how hard the travel bug actually hits and how real of a thing it is. I didn't want to do anything else but travel once I got back. I was looking at travel jobs. I was looking at ways to remote work and travel. I was just looking at every possibility because that is all I wanted from the moment I stepped foot outside this country. So a month later, I actually ended up quitting my job at Chipotle. Even my boss knew it was time for me to go. We were really close friends and it was just like my stint was over. I moved back home. I started reevaluating, cleaning up my life a little bit, and I started dipping my toes into solo travel. I would go back up to Pennsylvania, which is where I went to school. One of them was to see Harry Styles for Love on Tour with our free pit tickets. So that helped me with the comfortability of like going by myself places because I really hadn't done that much. In January of 2021, I secured a remote job that allowed me to travel. I was over the moon, and that's exactly what I did. I just laid out plans and started solo traveling. I will 100% make more videos about how to start solo traveling, the things that I did, things I learned, everything that comes with it. Anyway, to make a long story short, no, it did not work out with Tom. Yes, it sucked and was like probably one of the worst breakups that I've ever had, even though it wasn't even really a breakup. Like I still don't know how to categorize it, but I am super grateful for the role he played in my life. I'm always one to say everything happens for a reason and I'm always in the right place at the right time, and here I am. If I could change anything, I absolutely wouldn't. I would do it all over again, even though it sucked. Like, I was supposed to have a different job, move to Washington DC, and that changed after I got back. Like, it's just wild to think about all the things that could have been and that they weren't, and that I'm truly in the right place at the right time. I'm able to make my dreams a career and balance my life and do everything that I love, and I'm so grateful for that. So my main goal with this channel and all the content I create is really to just tell the story about all the things that I love, spread my knowledge and tips about traveling, maybe inspire others to do the same thing that I'm doing. And travel is now a huge passion of mine. I couldn't have done it without this whirlwind of a story, but I never want to stop, and I just want to keep growing, evolving, and going more places, and of course sharing all of that with you. So if you'd like to join me on my journey, make sure you subscribe. I plan to post weekly videos on YouTube. I also post daily on TikTok, a few times a week for Instagram. So much content, so much random content everywhere. If you enjoyed, make sure to like this video. Leave me some comments about videos you want to see from me, any of your travel boyfriend stories that you have, literally anything. I'd love to get to know you. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye!